By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him is celebrated my memories. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us and give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your name be spread all over the three worlds. We take the shelter of your lotus feet.
Shila Prabhupada ki jai.
I guess you have also an afternoon.
This weekend, yes, but I can do it if it's needed. If somebody washes the pots, I can do it.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. How do I otherwise you do everything. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we are continuing in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28. Today we read text 32. Agastyaha Prag Duhitaram Upayeme Trita Vratam Yasyam Tridachuto Jata Itmava Hatmajo Munihi Agastya Praktuhitaram Upayeme Trita Pratam Yasyam Dridachuto Jata Itmavahatmajo Munihi Agastya Praktuhitaram Upayeme Drita Pratam Yasyam Dridachuto Jata Itmavahatmajo Munihi
Agastya Praktuhitaram
Upayeme Drita Vratam Yasyam Dridachuto Jata Itmavahatmajo Munihi Agastya Praktuhitaram Upayeme Drita Vratam Yasyam Dridachuto Yata Itmavahatmajo Munihi
Agastya Praktuhitaram Upayeme Drita Vratam Yasyam Dridachuto Jata Itmavahatmajo Munihi
Agastya Praktuhitaram Upayeme Drita Vratam Yasyam Dridachuto Jata Itmavahatmajo Munihi
Agastya Praktuhitaram Upayeme Drita Vratam Yasyam Dridachuto Jata Itmavahatmajo Munihi
Agastya, the great sage Agastya,
the great sage Agastya,
Prag,
Prag,
first,
first,
Duhitaram,
Duhitaram,
daughter,
daughter,
Upayeme,
Upayeme,
married,
married,
Drita Vratam,
Drita Vratam,
taking two vows,
taking two vows,
Yasyam,
Yasyam,
through whom,
through whom
Tridachutaha,
Tridachutaha,
named Tridachuta,
named Tridachutaha,
Jataha,
Jataha,
was born,
was born,
Idmavaha,
Idmavaha,
named Idmavaha,
named Idmavaha,
Atmajaha,
Atmajaha,
son,
son,
Munihi,
Munihi,
great sage.
great sage.
Translation. The great sage named Agastya married the firstborn daughter of Malayadvaj, the avowed devotee of Lord Krishna. From her one son was born, whose name was Tridachuta, and from him another son was born, whose name was Idmavaha. The name Agastya Muni is very significant. Agastya Muni represents the mind. The word Agastya indicates that the senses do not act independently, and the word Muni means mind. The mind is the center of all the senses, and thus the senses cannot work independently of the mind. When the mind takes the cult of bhakti, it engages in devotional service. The cult of bhakti, Bhakti Lata, is the first daughter of Malayadvaj, and as previously described, her eyes are always upon Krishna, Asite Kshanam. One cannot render bhakti to any demigod. Bhakti can be rendered only to Vishnu, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Thinking the absolute truth to be without form, the Mayavadis say that the word bhakti can be applied to any form of worship. If this were the case, a devotee could imagine any demigod or any godly form and worship it. This, however, is not the real fact. The real fact is that bhakti can be applied only to Lord Vishnu and his expansions. Therefore, Bhakti Lata is Tridabrata, the great vow. For when the mind is completely engaged in devotional service, the mind does not fall down. If one tries to advance by other means, by karma yoga or jnana yoga, one will fall down. But if one is fixed in bhakti, he never falls down. Thus from Bhakti Lata, the son Tridachuta is born. And from Tridachuta the next son, Idmavaha, is born. The word Idmavaha refers to one who carries wood for burning in a sacrifice when approaching a spiritual master. The point is that Bhakti Lata, the cult of devotion, fixes one in his spiritual position. One so fixed never comes down, and he begets children who are strict followers of the Shastric injunctions. As said in the Vedas, Tat Vijnanartham Sagurum Eva Vigachet Samitpani Strotyam Brahmanishtam. In the line of devotional service, those who are initiated are strict followers of the Vedic scriptural injunctions. Om Jnanati Nirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Shakamitamscha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopresha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Harite Vancha Kalpa Tarubhishya Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vishnavebhyo Namo Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshasharine. Hare Krishna. I told in the morning, no, actually, Rajman Prabhu was supposed to give class, and then Sri Gauranga Prabhu, but somehow I was thinking, why? Strange, twice I tried to invite somebody, and I guess Krishna always fulfills many purposes, and the way I see this, because I should hear what's written in this purport, and especially the point of the stress on bhakti and how karma and jnana yoga are fallible, really resonated with my heart, knowing how the tendency is always to, especially I see the tendency in me, I want to learn a lot, sometimes Sankhya, knowledge and all that, and actually it's nice and it's part of our Bhakti Shastra, but it can also become a distraction, because ultimately it's about devotion, and that's what really fixes the mind, as Prabhupada is saying in the purport. So I thought we can speak a little bit about the mind and bhakti. And I wanted to read something which probably most of you who did the Bhakti Shastra, you remember. It was stressed in the Nectar of Devotion. In the preface, Prabhupada speaks about Bhoga Tyaga. Remember Bhoga Tyaga? The tendency of Bhoga Tyaga. Material engagement means accepting a particular status for some time and then changing it. This position of changing back and forth is technically known as Bhoga Tyaga, which means a position of alternating sense enjoyment and renunciation. Actually, also why it resonates with me is because I often in my classes I bring in some astrology, Jyotish, because in my free time I sometimes study Jyotish. It's like a little bit my hobby. And it's nice also, but it can be a great distraction. You know, trying to understand how karma works, and we need to know how karma works basically, but to go into the finest details can be like an addiction. Understanding, and what's the motivation? I often see in myself, to control. I want to control, that's why if I know how it works, I can control it. But still, since I'm a little bit addicted to that, I wanted to share something in astrology which very much Jyotish is called the eyes of the Vedas, meaning through Jyotish we actually get the eyes to see. And Jyotish, also some astrologers say, is like a language, but not with necessarily words, but with symbols. You have symbol of the planets, which are 9, then you have different signs, you have different houses, you have different stars, and these are like the the nouns, verbs, adjectives of the language. If you combine them, you can make different words, and an astrologer is able to actually understand what, for example, a horoscope is saying by reading it, reading the language. And about this concept of Boga Tyag, we learn a lot if we study Jyotish, especially the Vedic astrology, because there is the two shadow planets, Rahu and Ketu. And we know Rahu, Ketu, they also come in the Bhagavatam. The story is actually in the Bhagavatam, which makes it also very important. We can understand it's not just some random thing, but it's in Bhagavatam how Rahu, Ketu, they got created. And the story is that, you know the story, yeah? Listen. So when they were churning, the demigods and the asuras, they were churning the ocean of milk. And then different things came out, and eventually nectar came out. And then the demigods and the demons, they fought for this nectar. And one demon, Svarbhanu, he drank some of this nectar, and while he was drinking, Vishnu cut off, like he said, cut off his head. So the head became Rahu and the body became Ketu. But so he was killed, but because he already drank the nectar, he was immortal, and he became actually one of the demigods. So he became one of the heavenly bodies. And this Rahu Ketu is nothing else than what Prabhupada describes here. The position of alternating sense enjoyment and renunciation. So all of us, we have Rahu Ketu in our horoscope. When we are born, Rahu Ketu is somewhere in the horoscope. And they are always opposite of each other. And Rahu, he's the head. He doesn't have a body, meaning he's always hungry, but he cannot digest. Meaning he's always lusty. He always wants to enjoy. And Ketu, he doesn't have a head. He only has a body. He always wants to renounce. He always feels the pain of this world, and he always wants to renounce. And they are opposite each other because Boga and Tyag, they are actually linked with each other. It's the same thing, but different side of, like you have a coin, a money coin, then one side is Boga and the other side is Tyag. So it's the same coin, but different side. And here, why do I bring it up? Because in the purport, Srila Prabhupada was saying how the mind can only be fixed by devotional service. So it's the mind which is flickering, and Prabhupada is saying, in material life it's constantly Boga Tyag, I want to enjoy this, I want to renounce this, then I want to enjoy this, I want to renounce. It's constantly going like this. Like Rahu and Ketu, they also turn. But the interesting thing about Rahu and Ketu is that you have all the planets and they move from, it's difficult to say from left to right because from where do you look? But if you look, the planets, they come up in the east, no? The sun comes up in the east and goes down in the west. However, the planets, the sun, they actually move from west to east, if we would look like this slowly. Or the moon, slowly, every day, he will jump. But Rahu Ketu, they move in the other direction. And what does it signify? It signifies that they are asuras, they are not dharmic, and actually they cause for us to stay in the material world. Rahu and Ketu, they continually push us to take birth again. Because as long as Rahu is not satisfied, he will give you another body. But how can Rahu be satisfied? Actually, it's described that the solution is if Rahu and Ketu, they again come together. Because now they are separated and they have this void within themselves. One is always hungry and the other. So to bring them together is the solution. And so this Rahu and Ketu, also from the Jyotish point of view, it's a symbolic language. So just by observing how is Rahu Ketu actually created, we can learn a lot about how we get entangled in this world. How is Rahu Ketu created? Anyone knows what the Rahu Ketu? It's not a physical body, but it is a subtle body. And they use one specific term, a shadow body. So Rahu Ketu are shadow planets. Why? Because they're the sun and the moon eclipse. So they are the shadow you see when the moon moves into the sun, in front of the sun. Then you know the sun will be eclipsed, there will be some darkness, some shadow. So that's Ketu. And then on the other side you have the moon, and because the earth comes in between the sun and the moon, you will see a shadow on the moon, because the light of the sun will not have direct, it cannot shine directly because of our position being in between the sun and the moon, so there will be a shadow. So it's created by the moon and the sun and the earth, right? So it's a shadow, but in order for the shadow to manifest, it needs a sun, it needs a moon, and it needs something in between. And especially the mind, when we speak about Rahu, the Rahu, no, he's the eclipse of the moon, and the moon is basically our desires. So it means when our mind is not fixed on Krishna, like Prabhupada says here, then always there will be some dark spot in the mind. There will always be something which we think it's missing. Something is missing, so we have to fill it up. Some shadow will be in our life and we have to fill it up. And this goes on eternally up to the point where we take shelter of Krishna. That's the only solution. Last class I spoke about how liberation is an illusion actually. Because Ketu, who symbolizes liberation, the desire for mukti, he's binding us in this world exactly in the same way like Rahu is binding us. So it's not by striving for liberation, but it's by becoming a devotee, by purifying the mind, that Rahu and Ketu come together and the shadow is dissipated. There will be no shadow anymore. Does it make sense? Makes sense? So I just want to say that because since I'm studying so much, I as well can share a little bit, because it's helping in this understanding how am I entangled in this world? Now, Prabhupada makes one point, a strong point. He's saying, if one tries to advance by other means, by karma yoga or jnana yoga, one will fall down, but if one is fixed in bhakti, he never falls down. And I thought we can discuss Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Shishi Gaurnitai Ki Jai. You know, to understand better actually why is bhakti the only way to fix the mind, and Prabhupada says one will not fall down. So what means fall down of the mind? Does anyone have a suggestion? What is the meaning of that? When Prabhupada says, when the mind is completely engaged in devotional service, the mind does not fall down. If one tries to advance by other means, by karma yoga and jnana yoga, one will fall down. But if one is fixed in bhakti, he never falls down. What means fall down?
Forgot Krishna.
Forget Krishna, and then
Enjoy this material world.
enjoy this material world. Yes. So basically the mind falls into material contamination again. So why is bhakti the only way? In order to understand this, it's good, I would like to know your understanding of, okay, we have karma yoga, we have jnana yoga, we have bhakti yoga, but apart from that we also have karma and jnana. No? Not everybody is practicing yoga. Actually, very few are practicing yoga. Most of the people are engaged in karma or jnana. So what is the definition of karma? Like sometimes devotees say the karma is outside, the karma. What is a karma? What is it? I'm not saying that it's actually maybe the right understanding, because sometimes we also have this tendency of karma, but what is a karmi? Or what is karma?
A fruitive worker.
A fruitive worker. So one who enjoys the fruits of his action. Gokul Ranjan?
Yeah, someone who acts according to the Vedic principles, because he knows that in that way he will get to the best fruits.
Good point, yeah. Okay, so a karmi, actually, he's somebody who is he's performing good karma. Otherwise we would call him maybe a karmi, somebody who acts sinfully. Vikarmi, sorry. So, of course, I just put all of them in one to make the point that somebody who tries to enjoy the fruits of action, it can be in a legal way or in an illegal way, meaning according to Vedic injunctions or against. Then what is a jnani, or one who practices jnana? Dino, you have an idea? No?
Is it somebody who acquires knowledge?
Yes. Why? What does he try to achieve?
Liberation?
Yes. And how does he do that?
I don't know.
What is the result of knowledge? Real knowledge?
Realization.
Renunciation. Jnana Vairagya. So when one has knowledge, we're speaking about knowledge, not that you go to university and learn how to operate the machine or this kind of materialistic knowledge, but real knowledge will lead you to renunciation, because you understand that actually you cannot enjoy in this world. So this is karma and jnana, the one who wants to enjoy and the one who wants to renounce. Basically the one who is under the influence of Rahu and the one who is under the influence of Ketu. But now we have the three yoga forms. We have karma yoga, jnana yoga and bhakti yoga. What is karma yoga? What's the definition of karma yoga?
But to be engaged in devotional service.
But that's also bhakti yoga, no? Yes?
Doing good deeds.
Doing good deeds. Also the Bhakti Yoga does good deeds, the Jnana Yogi also.
So Karma Yoga is actually if you work and you offer the fruits of your
Yes,
work. Yes,
offering the fruits of one's actions for the pleasure of Krishna. That's yoga. So you karma, you perform action, but then yoga, you give the fruit of the action to Krishna. Then what is Jnana Yoga?
Предлагаем знание Кришны.
Renunciation of action, so knowledge, but you're renouncing the actions for the pleasure of Krishna. Right? You renounced. That's the prime factor that you renounce, but you do it for Krishna. Meaning you want to establish a relationship with Brahman or Paramatma, or maybe even Krishna in some way. And what is Bhakti Yoga? What's the definition of Bhakti Yoga?
Doing everything for Krishna.
Yes, action for the pleasure of Krishna. So you might renounce, you might work, whatever you do, you just do it for Krishna. There is not, in Karma Yoga there is an emphasis on work because you want something, and in Jnana there is an emphasis on renunciation because you want to renounce, you want to be free from entanglement. But in Bhakti Yoga, the prime factor, the prime focus is I want to please Krishna. And so that's the difference. And Prabhupada says, Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, one will fall down. Meaning, even though it's connected to Krishna, but because the focus is not entirely, or at least primarily on Krishna, one has to fall down. But if one is in Bhakti, one will never fall down. Because of the point, Bhakti fixes the mind in one place. However, if you're still attached to karma and jnana, there's always this tendency of wanting to control. Either I want to control something so I can enjoy, or you want to control so that I can renounce. And this can overcome, it can overcome the spirit soul. Even though there is some understanding of Krishna, if that is strong, it can actually overcome that soul, and then one can fall down into the material world, into the material existence. So I just want to read a few things from Prabhupada's books to maybe conclude this point. Prabhupada writes, actually I don't see where it was. Yeah, I'm just reading it somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, I think. Gati means, so now the point comes, why should we perform bhakti? You know, we might have a desire for jnana or for karma, we want to enjoy or we want to become free from suffering, but why should we actually focus on bhakti? Prabhupada says, Gati means the destination where we want to go. But the ultimate goal is Krishna, although people do not know it. One who does not know Krishna is misled, and his so-called progressive march is either partial or hallucinatory. There are many who make as their destination different demigods, and by rigid performance of the strict respective methods, they reach different planets known as Chandraloka, Suryaloka, Indraloka, Mahaloka, etc. But all such lokas or planets, being creations of Krishna, are simultaneously Krishna and not Krishna. Such planets, being manifestations of Krishna's energy, are also Krishna. But actually they serve only as a step forward for realization of Krishna. To approach the different energies of Krishna is to approach Krishna indirectly. One should directly approach Krishna, for that will save time and energy. For example, if there is a possibility of going to the top of a building by the help of an elevator, why should one go by the staircase, step by step? Everything is resting on Krishna's energy. Therefore, without Krishna's shelter, nothing can exist. Krishna is the supreme ruler because everything belongs to him and everything exists on his energy. Krishna, being situated in everyone's heart, is the supreme witness. The residences, countries or planets on which we live are also Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate goal of shelter, and therefore one should take shelter of Krishna, either for protection or for alleviation of his distress. And whenever we have to take protection, we should know that our protection must be a living force. Krishna is the supreme living entity. And since Krishna is the source of our generation, or the Supreme Father, no one can be a better friend than Krishna. Nor can anyone be a better well-wisher. Krishna is the original source of creation and the ultimate rest after annihilation. Krishna is therefore the eternal cause of all causes. So that's the point where one accepts Bhakti Yoga as the supreme process, by understanding that everything is coming from Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam udabhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. This is the first verse from the Chatur Shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, and it makes this point that if somebody understands that Krishna is the source of everything, then he will actually become a devotee. In another place in Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam pravadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudulabhaha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So again the same point, that if somebody understands Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that Krishna is everything, then he will surrender and serve Krishna. But Krishna says it is not so, it doesn't happen so often. Bahunam Chanmanamanti. It happens after many, many births. There is one more quote in the Bhagavad Gita, which actually connects very nicely to today's verse. Because in today's verse we had the words Trida Brata, which also come in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeshantanta katam papam jananam punya karmanam dedvandva mohanir mukta vajante mam Trida Brataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. And I just want to read the purport, because here comes a very important point of, okay, I have so many desires and I'm not free from sinful reactions, but I understand that Krishna is the source of everything, at least theoretically. So how can I make this jump from where I am now, conditioned, to being a devotee? And Prabhupada says, those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, atheistic, foolish and deceitful, it is very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate. So again the same point, Rahu Ketu, that's a duality of desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously, and who have conquered sinful reactions, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness, in the association of pure devotees. For in the association of great devotees, one can be delivered from delusion. Prabhupada making the point, the importance of association with the pure devotee. And here he quotes from Bhagavatam. It is stated in the Bhagavatam that if one actually wants to be liberated, he must render service to the devotees. Mahat sevam dvaram ahur vimuktehe. But one who associates with materialistic people is on the path leading to the darkest region of existence. This is a famous verse in Bhagavatam, and it makes the point that one has to serve the pure devotee in order to attain liberation. So, not only does one have to serve a pure devotee to actually come to the platform of bhakti and then be liberated, but one can also very easily come to the platform of bhakti. In the Bhagavad Gita it's spoken about the yoga ladder, karma yoga, jnana yoga, and then bhakti yoga, that the soul is actually gradually rising. But Prabhupada, in the whole Bhagavad Gita, is just stressing the point, you just serve Krishna, you are Krishna conscious, and then you will elevate yourself in no time. And he then always stressed the point that under the guidance of a pure devotee, you serve a pure devotee. And Prabhupada gave this example of the rich person with the dog. That if you want to approach a rich person, it's very difficult, but if you somehow or other please the dog, then the master will also be pleased, and you can immediately have a relationship with the master. So in this way, one can, even though one is very conditioned, has a lot of anarthas and bad habits, addictions, if one somehow or other becomes very much attached to the pure devotee, and we don't like to actually compare the pure devotee to a dog, because a dog is something different, but the principle is that the pure devotee is so dear to Krishna that if I develop some attachment to the pure devotee, Krishna will immediately accept me. And that is actually the way. And so in this way we can accept bhakti, and in this way we can make rapid progress and fix our mind, bring back together Rahu Ketu, and go back home, back to Godhead. So thank you for your attention. Sorry for going over time. You switch off, right?
No, on or off.
You want to say something because we already over time. You have something?
The question?
Yeah.
You mentioned that in this verse it said that unless you practice bhakti yoga, you can still fall down. So is there a connection with the yoga letter, Asada Sangha Bhajana Kriya, that from like different steps are, for example, karma yoga, and then next steps are jnana yoga, and then like the top steps are bhakti yoga? Can you make a connection there, or is there a connection
between karma, jnana? The question is if there's a connection between karma, jnana.
No, between karma, jnana, and bhakti yoga and the yoga ladder.
Is there a connection?
Yeah, if there is a connection.
Yeah, the karma is the lowest part, and the jnana is the middle part, and bhakti is the highest. That's how I got to know. So, in the traditional system, especially Varna Shram Dharma, somebody is first who is conditioned, heavily conditioned encouraged, okay, you act, you try to enjoy, but you, like you said, you take the fruits of your work and offer it to Krishna. And in this way the heart gets purified, and then a desire for liberation will come. And then Jnana Yoga comes, and if Jnana Yoga, you do that, but you try to do it in accordance with the Vedic knowledge, you connect with Brahman, Paramatma, you follow the process, then you will come ultimately to the point, like Ashtanga Yoga is actually Jnana Yoga in a way, no? And at one point you look in your heart and you see Paramatma, and then Bhakti starts. Oh, there's actually the Lord in my heart and I have to serve Him, and then you surrender. Then Bhakti Yoga starts. So that is the idea, and as far as I know, if you combine them, then it's also in a way called Buddhi Yoga. You elevate yourself with your intelligence. But the goal is, if you know from the very beginning that the goal is Bhakti, then it's Buddhi Yoga, which basically, even though you're down, you know where you want to go. But then some, because they don't have the consciousness to already understand what is the goal, they would just practice karma yoga, being guided by the superiors, by the Vedic scriptures, by the Brahmanas, and only by actually getting purified they start to understand where they're actually going. So then they're just on that ladder, or on that part of the ladder, and if they fall down, then it will not. Then they fall down. And another thing which is important, that in every yoga there has to be some element of bhakti, otherwise it's not working. Actually, advancement only comes through bhakti in the yoga system. So you have to, only if it's connected to Krishna and you practice some sort of bhakti, will there be any advancement. Otherwise it doesn't work. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Krishna, Prabhu, you want to comment something?
This question about Tyaga, the pronunciation and attaching these words, the Pravrit Marga and Nivrit Marga. The books of the six Goswamis are a summary of all the Vedas. It's a perfect summary, and Rupa Goswami speak about this. What is pure bhakti? Ayabhilashta shunyam jnana karmadena vritam, without the influence of karma and jnana. But the Bhagavad Gita is perfect and complete also. It's more rational, it's more directed. And Bhagavad Gita is explaining about what is bhakti pure bhakti in 11th chapter, verse 55. Mat karma krim mat paramo. This same thing. The point that renunciation and attachment is illusion. If you understand the condition of the spiritual soul, the condition of the spiritual soul is practice bhakti. Bhakti is the highest stage of the highest condition of the soul. Everything is for Krishna, and I am eternal servant of Krishna. Understand this. If I search enjoyment, happiness in the material world, this is impossible, because everything is from Krishna. And what I can renunciate if everything is from Krishna? Yes. Another thing, the tendency of jnana is the tendency of understanding the things about my effort. Prabhupada explained in the Bhagavad Gita purport that the Gyanis, the big Gyanis, understand learning Sanskrit, and they go to the Vedanta Sutra and and they try understand the Vedanta Sutra by the owner effort. This is very interesting because this is universal. In academy, in the philosophers try to understand the philosophers by owner effort. If one philosopher want to understand Nietzsche, he need learn German very perfect, and by this way he will interpretation the Nietzsche by his effort. Understand? This is tendency of Jnana. I want control. I want to have a big knowledge, and I will know all this. Bhakti means accept authority. Yes, we accept the ultimate authority that is Krishna, but we accept the authority of Guru. We accept the authority of the Acharyas. We accept the authorities of Jiva Goswami, Srimati Kavardi Thakur, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Yes, and by enlightening of this, we follow. Yes, like a dog is a very nice. Yeah, not I try by my effort. This is false ego. Yes, the devotee surrender to acharyas, surrender to guru, and follow. Yes, devotee not try learning Sanskrit, and now I will understand Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada not so good. Yes, the Parampara not so good. Now I will understand the Bhagavad Gita, the Puranas, the Upanishads. This is the tendency of Jnana, but devotees no. Devotees accept the authority, accept the acharyas, and surrender. Yes, we are the dogs in this sense. Yes. This is the pure bhakti. Yes, we are beyond of tendency of control or tendency of dominating and exploitation, exploiting this material world.
Thank you, Prabhu. I especially like the point of you learn German and then you try to understand.
Yes, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche.
Yeah.
This is the base of the academic.
The absurdity.
The false ego,
Yeah.
the Gyanis. But in really, they're not Gyanis because they understand this, they have this tendency, but in deep, what they do, they are enjoyers. They try to enjoy the material world. Really, they are karmas, but they are a very fine.
But
of Gyanis.
they are Gyanis, no? But not Jnana yogis, but Gyanis.
Yeah, the tendency of Jnana, but the tendency more big is karma, because when you go to the congress, academic congress, the teachers stay in the 5-star hotels, and during the day they go to the congress. Yes, plan, blah, 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 blah. And the night, what they will do, you understand.
I know.
They are karmas.
I just want to ask one question because I think it's a really nice question and it's important because we often hear what is in which category belongs to Mayavadi?
Yeah.
Gyan? Somebody has another? Gyan? Jnana yogi? No. No, he's a Jnani. Mayavadi is a Jnani, yeah. So that's what, sometimes in the beginning, we think everything impersonal is not good, but actually a Jnana yogi, one who follows the Vedic scriptures, who follows the acharyas, to aspire for Brahman and Paramatma, that is bona fide, in a way. But a Mayavadi, he's a Jnani. He's negating the existence of God. At the same time, he wants to become liberated. That's why Prabhupada is always hammering this point. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Vacha Kalpa
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai.
You know this point you were making about sadhu sangha bhajan?
Yes.
But they are the ladders in bhakti.
These are the ladders in bhakti.
In bhakti.
In bhakti,
And they are not connected with jnana and karma at all. Because in these ladders, if you fall down, Prabhupada says in bhakti, even if you fall down, you start from where you left. But it's not the same in jnana and karma.
Okay.
So, in a way, these 9 stages in the practice of bhakti have no reflection of jnana and karma. So, we cannot categorize them as jnana and karma. None of them, because they are still.
Because they are like in the category of bhakti.
Yeah. And even if you fall from, let's say, Nishtha to the next stage, you will start from where you left off. Whereas in Jnana and Karma, whatever you did in the past is by start. You have to start from scratch. So for Karma, okay, you carry pious activity.
But if you fall down from Jnana or Karma, you still have the good deeds.
You have pious, yes. For example, a Jnani learns a lot in this life. And dies. The next life you have to again start from
But
scratch.
he will be smarter for it. It will be easier for him.
He will have a certain kind of inclination, but does not mean that he can start from scratch, because whatever he gained is lost. So that inclination is there with the soul, that tendency is there, but then the background is lost. Same with karma also. So what happens in karma is if you do good karma, you get a rich family, you get beauty, you get education. But again, you have to go through the whole process. But in bhakti, even if you die and you take birth again, somehow Krishna will make arrangement. You start, for example, you see so many individuals, they join Krishna consciousness, and from the very beginning they are so advanced, or they quickly advance. And that's the sign of bhakti, that you left somewhere and you continue from there. So that way sadhu, sangha, bhajana, kriya, they don't have any hint of karma or jnana. But it was a nice question.
Thank you. Hast du dich erkannt?
Ich habe so einen Husten, der geht immer nicht weg. Vielleicht auch nicht. Vielleicht ist es gesund. Zu wenig.
Yes. Yes. They are little mermaids today.
Quadros de marmita.
Yes.
You always use a yoga block for sitting?
Yes.
Okay, is it better?
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult, but
Okay.
helps me to sit straight.
Yeah, because I have like a little problem with it, but I noticed like it's moment you always have like this.
Yeah. But if you in the beginning it's difficult,
Okay.
and some days when you're tired it's difficult to sit on it.
Okay.
But then if you sit on it, you have to sit straight. I mean, you can still do like this, but then this helps to sit straight.
Okay.
I
I always do the lotus sit like this, but you can do it like for like half an hour.
I mean, sitting on this is a little bit of an effort, but it's nice.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama.